Hi all, welcome to my channel, welcome to my world. This is the world of Wade. It's brand new build day, and for the folks over at Agora Models, we have pack 1 of the US Constitution. So, Agora Models have brought out the wooden model of the US Constitution. Now, this is in 1/76 scale. I will show you the brochure in a minute, but I am really looking forward to doing this. This is going to be brilliant. I have been anticipating this for quite a while. Now, if you want to get this for yourself, I have put a link in the video description, and there's also a QR code on the screen. Once you do get something from Agora Models, you are covered by that Agora promise. Now, Agora Models have the Agora Promise philosophy, which is absolutely brilliant and will protect you on your purchase. You'll get high quality parts which are checked throughout. The pack price will be fixed after ordering, and you can be assured that the full model will be done to completion. Now, they're normally dispatched within 48 hours, and they're officially licensed products, which is an accurate representation of the model you're building. They got prioritised customer support and worldwide shipping. Just select your country at checkout. Now, being a wooden ship model, it is going to require a few tools that you will need to get. Now, it does detail these in the stages, but I have done this on the video as well. I've also put a link in the video description to my Amazon store, which have got all the tools that I'm using. So when you are doing this build along with me, you can actually get those and use the same stuff I'm using. But I'm so excited for this. Without further ado, let's get cracking. Now, unlike large-scale build-up models, we don't actually use screwdrivers. The only thing we're really going to be using a lot of is a scalpel. So I'm going to just do a list of stuff that we're actually going to need before we start this build, or even before I open the pack. So I have got a cutting knife here. I've got a pencil. I need a pencil. I'm going to need some fine grit sandpaper. Now, I've got two kinds. I've got a sanding sticks, I've got sponge sanders, and I've got normal sandpaper as well. You're going to need as many saws as you can get your hands on. I've got this small saw here. I also have a coping saw, and I also have a traditional saw as well. So I've got that, and should I need it, I've also got an electric jigsaw, so I can use that as well. I'm going to need masking tape, which I've got here. I'm going to need files. Different kinds. I've just shown you one here, but I've got different kinds that have rounds, points, triangles, that sort of thing. Gonna need wood glue, which I've got here. I'm gonna need clamps. So I've got two kinds of clamps. I've got these clamps here, and then I've got the bigger ones, which look just like that there. I also need steel ruler, looking like that. And I think we're pretty much good. We also need a set square. I haven't got a set square, so I'm going to have to improvise for something for a set square. All of this is going to hopefully get us on our journey to building a wooden ship. In this case, the US Constitution. Now, what we're going to do is open the box. So I've zoomed out my cameras as much as I possibly can, because look at the size of this beast. And this will be the first time we see this. That is how it's looking. And check this out. Look, we've got a guide. Pretty much all Agora models do have these guides. We're going to have a look at that in a second. Just interested to see what this is. We've got satin varnish. I thought I have to actually use my own varnish, but check this out. Look, it comes with its own varnish there. And we've got two lots of that. So absolutely brilliant that that's been provided. Now, let's look at this brochure. This is the finished US Constitution. That's what it's going to look like. It's 1/76 scale, 1/76 scale. This is how it's looking. Look at all that rigging. That's going to be crazy. Just turning it over, it tells you about the Agora Vantage Club there and the Agora Promise, as you can see there. And then this is going to open out into this awesome poster here. How cool is that? Excellent. Now, something else I've noticed they've got in here. Look, we've got some massive brushes of different thicknesses. A really thick one, a medium-sized one, and a small one there. Really big brushes. And I think this is an absolutely brilliant idea here. What this is a template sheet, so I can actually match up parts so I know what part numbers are actually on each stage. So I can basically break them off the plates, put them on here so I can identify them. So that's what this is here. Now, I'm guessing the first parts we need are in here. So let's open this up and have a look at these plates. And this is a really nice wood. I like this wood. This isn't like your basswood or basswood that you get in other builds that you've seen me do. This is a real high quality wood. Check this out. That is excellent. And we've got different kinds here with different patterns on. Now, the first thing we need is this one here. And this is actually 1.1. Now what they're using is a pencil just to label that, so I know what that is. Now I've zoomed up the cameras. The way these are actually held in, you can see we've got some little joining points there. We just need to cut these with our scalpel that's going to release these. So check all the way around to make sure they're all done. And when they're all done, that should just fall out like that. Now we're looking for wood flaking on here. So to make sure we haven't got any wood flaking, we can get either our sandpaper, or in my case I've got a sanding sponge, to just sand the top down here to ensure we haven't got any flaking. It will also mean that when we put satin on this, it's going to adhere to this better. And obviously this is going to cause a lot of dust, so I do have a cloth here to get rid of that, but that's nice and sanded. Now, where we had those joins, which you can see here, if we've got a burr there, we can either use a file to get that off, which is here, or if you don't want to be as abrasive to that, I've got these sponge sanders here, which will make sure that that is lovely and smooth like that. I'm only going to really use the file if it is quite an abrasive one in there. So that's pretty much how we're going to be taking parts off. Now we can just put this to one side. Now I have got another box here of stuff which I haven't taken out yet, so let's get these out. And as you can see here, this has got a lot of the long pieces in here, including some doweling there. I do love the colour of this wood. Some wood here, looking just like this. Now, I do need another part now. Some of these have already fallen out, so I've made sure that I have got these. But I do need this massive section just here. So once again, just getting my scalpel here just to break the joins to ensure this comes away cleanly. And if you've done it right, that should just slip out like that. And we're just going to repeat what we just done on that first piece. So again, if we've got any burrs here, I'm going to sand them down smooth. And then in a similar vein, I'm just going to make sure I've got no flaking on here by sanding this both sides. And once again, get rid of all that dust. I have got a vacuum cleaner actually. I do think having something like this is pretty invaluable. Now, as you know, we've already done part 1.1, which I've labelled. I need to take off now parts 1.4, 1.5 and 1.3. This part here is 1.2. Now what I'm doing here is I'm just transferring all the numbers to these parts so I can identify them later on. Because the next numbers I need are two 1.4s, which are these. If you are having trouble with a scalpel getting this through, you're going to need something a little bit harder, which I've just noticed there. And that's where we bring in the big boys. So I'll get all of these parts out. Now I need two 1.5. So one is actually on this sheet and one is on this sheet that we took this large one out just there. And similar way, I'm going to file these down here and sand the sides. The last part I need on here is 1.3, which is this one. And it's basically rinse and repeat. So let's just lay out what we've actually got here. We've got these two pieces, this one here, and this one here. Okay, I'm going to move everything else so I don't get confused of what I'm actually working on. The reason for that is because I need to move that up there, and I need these two long bits of wood now, and I also need probably the biggest thing in this pack, which is this just here. Now, I don't think it matters which way round it goes. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this out exactly as they have it in the magazine. So if you look on the top camera, they've got it this way round. Now I've zoomed out my camera. It's very important to make sure that this is flat for us to be working on this. Now what we're going to be doing is these pieces here, we're going to be gluing to each side. So this one's going to go butt against the edge here, like that. And we're going to do the same on this one just over here. Now this is going to stop this bending up and down when all of this stuff that we're building onto here starts curing. So let's glue this into place. And I'm not going to use their brushes that they gave us for now. I have got a brush specially for this. But it does mean that I'm going to put some of my Gorilla Glue in. You can get this from my Amazon store. Into here. Now in my Amazon store, everything I'm using for this build is going to have its own separate tab. So you'll be able to follow that. But I do need quite a bit of glue in here. With this glue, if it's got one of these tops, always clean the top. Otherwise you're going to have a nightmare trying to open that next time. Okay, let's put glue along this whole side. There you go, that's one side ready to go. Line this up, get this on. Perfect. And then I'll do the same on the other side here. Now the reason these builds take so long is because obviously we need to let this glue dry. So I'm going to see what we get through today. I can't see us doing the full pack one in one video. As a matter of fact, for this whole build, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm actually breaking it down into individual stages. But I'm hoping this gives you the techniques that I'm using that's going to help you out when you build yours. Now, because I've put this on as a real thin layer, as you can see there, this shouldn't take too long to cure at all. That is perfect. Now, while that is curing, I can actually start putting some of these parts in because we're not actually gluing them into place. So the way these are going to go is if this is part 1.1 here, and this is part 1.2, I can actually join these together here. Again, no glue at these at all, and put this into position just onto this pegboard here. Just move this down a touch because we're going to be doing the same on the other side here. This is just going to be going in here, and then it will sit in there like that. Now I think it's important to go onto my mobile phone camera so you can see how this is. Now if you look, there should be a slope from this level here, and that gap should get smaller and smaller and smaller as it reaches the back there. So what I'm going to do now is just going to let this glue set because that is the end of that stage. Now what I'm going to do for pack 2 is I'm actually, whereas I wrote all the numbers on each part here, I'm going to do that for every piece that I've got left now. So for example, this one here is going to be 1.8, 1.9, 1.10. I'll do that with all of these. So I'm now at a stage where every single thing now is labelled up. So first part I need is 1.8, which is this one here. And it will become religious to you about sanding these down and also making sure there's no flaking on the sides. So bringing over what we've just created, and I'm going to want this end here. So I'm having a good move around with my camera so you can see that. Now again, we're not gluing these when we put these in, but this is going to be going onto this first little notch just here. So this goes on here, just like this. And ensure that it fits comfortably into this notch just here. Now don't worry about this not going all the way into this slot. We don't have to worry about that yet. Move this down to the other side. Just here, we're going to be putting 1.10 and 1.9 in here. That's the other two which are on here. Now, we don't need this anymore. We can throw that away. Okay, so 1.10, that's going to go in this very M1. Just like that. And you are wanting to make sure this is perpendicular here to that base. We skip one, and then on this one here, we're going to be putting 1.19. Once again, nothing's been glued yet. Now these pieces are going to aid to be making the false keel here. Now this is where it would be good to use something that you've got as a set square. In this instance, I happen to have this metal block here with a right angle. What that's going to do for me, if you've got a set square, it's a lot better, but it will ensure that these are perpendicular in here, as you can see, which is good, because what we're about to do is these parts that we labelled up in stage 1, which are labelled up as 1.5, I'm going to be putting them into this position just here, and I am going to be gluing these into place each side, just like this. But I do need to make sure that this is perfectly straight. So by that end, it means I need to put glue on both of these sides here. So one on this side, glue on this one. That's going to go on the other side here. We want to make sure this is sitting perfectly flush. And that looks good. And I think what I'll do, I'm going to put a clamp just over the top of that. Keep that in. Now, do you remember these ones? 1.4. We're going to go to the other side of the ship now. And these are going to be going over this join point here. Now, they go lengthways round. So they're going to be fitting nice and flush against this edge just like that there. We're going to be doing that on both sides. So I may as well glue the side that I put the number on. Now when we put these on, not only am I making sure that they are square, I'm also making sure that they don't impede this gap here, because when we put a section into here, we want to be able to slot that in. We don't want these getting in the way. But that's looking good. Once again, I'm going to hold them in with a clamp. Okay, just put that to one side to dry. And I'm looking for the plate which has got these parts on. 1.11 here. Let's get this one off. And I also need 1.12, which is just below it here. Now, there's two of these 1.12 pieces, so I need both of those. And once again, we're going to be cleaning these up. And with those pieces there prepped and taken off, that's all there is to do in that stage. Okay, do you remember we had this sheet here? What we're going to be doing, the pieces we just cut off here, as you can see, we're actually going to be starting to place these in so we know how they're going to go. So as you can see, these are going to fit perfectly on these templates here. So that's going to go there. This one's going to be going in there. Then we're going to be creating the bottom piece just here. So that's going to create piece 1. So it does mean that we're going to need to join these parts together. So if ever you need a reason to have a perfectly flat surface, now is the time. So I'm going to be putting some glue just this side here and this side here, and putting these into place. Got a hair on there, let's get that off. There we go. So that now these two are going to be joined together. Now in the magazine, they're actually gluing this to the paper. Now if you are planning to move this afterwards, then you probably do want to put it on the paper. So now you've seen how I'm going to make one of those. I'm just going to slide that over there and bring this back over, because I'm going to be doing the same thing with this one here and this one here, which means I need to cut off parts 1.14, 1.13, and 1.16 and 1.15. Now I thought I'd finish by just doing the top 3, but no, we need to do number 4, number 5, number 6 and number 7. So what I'm going to do is, now you've seen how they go together, I'll do them now and we'll come back when they're all fitted. I can see now why they are actually attaching this to the paper, because obviously you want to make sure these are square at the top It's all very well being square at the bottom, but that's why I am just switching it up a little bit and putting these where they go here. You see this one's just slightly out, so if I put that in there, it's going to be perfect. And as you can see, those 5 are completed. The other thing about sticking it to the paper is it ensures they're going to be lying flat as well. Because if you're only joining this area just here and they bow upwards, you're going to have a problem. So that's why we're putting it on the paper. That makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to leave all 7 of these to dry now for a good couple of hours before I come back to this, because then we're going to be starting to put this into the kill section. Okay, so as you can see here, these I've now unstuck are all done. Just like this. Now I'm keeping them on the paper at the moment just so I can identify the pieces. But what I want to do is just check when you pull them off, you may have some paper stuck to it where the glue's stuck and stuff. So we do want to sand that off. So I have got a little sanding stick here, which will make short work of that, as you can see. So, as you can see, they're all done and they're all cleaned up. Now, I want frame 118, which is this one here. It's going to move all the rest to the other side. And bringing over this massive section now of the ship. Going to be working on just this area here, and I'm going to be putting this block that we've got just into the point just here. Now this is the 4th groove down, 1 2 3 4. So this is going to be going into here, and the legs here are going to be going into that section just there. Now I'm just dry fitting it at the moment to show you how that fits, but what we are going to do, now I know that fits fine, is I'm going to be placing glue into this area just here. Now once you've identified the piece that we're going to be putting in there, before I glue that in, I am just going to get an eraser just to these marks here, just to take off the pencil. That's good. Put this in. That's seated perfectly there, and now hopefully you can just see this. I need to ensure that that's perfectly straight. Now I do need a set square for that. I don't have one, so once again I am going to use this metal section here so I can actually ensure that that is sitting exactly 90 degrees, which it is. Excellent. Now that was 1.18. I'm going to be putting 120, 122 and 124 in. So we're going to have 4 in a row. Okay, so when they're all in, this is basically 118, 120, 122 and 124. We're going to be working backwards now on this, which means we can now get rid of this section just here, which was holding things in place. Because if this is 118, we're going to be putting 116 next to it just here. Again, just checking the square to make sure that it's perfectly upright. And I'm just going to continue doing that till we're at the back. And there you go, that is looking really good. And if you have a look on the sides, you can see how straight they all are. Excellent. And that is the end of part 1 of pack 1. And I'm sure you'll agree, that looks absolutely brilliant at the moment. Very happy with that. Now there's 2 stages left of pack 1. We do have some intricate stuff to do on the inside of this bit now. It does take a little bit of a while, and that's why I've split this video up. Otherwise this video would be hours long, but I am looking really forward to doing that. If you do want to get this for yourself, once again, I have put a link in the video description, and there's also that QR code on the screen. I'd love as many of you to follow along with me as possible, just so we can support each other on this build, but this is looking like something special. Anyway, I really hope you liked that video. If you did, please remember to give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, please remember to subscribe. Other than that, take care.